Hey, this show's about spaceships.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Ward, and this is Rob with coffee in his mouth, the Sketchcraft guy.
Spaceships! It's all about spaceships!
All about spaceships. Today, there's Bad Batch news that Bad Batch is getting a second season. On a side note, I meant to talk about this earlier or at the start of the show already. I've already messed it up. But I went over to the Mando, Obi-Wan, whatever set it is today. And they were building sets that looked to me to be the Grief Karga area of whatever that place is called. And nothing big there, but yeah, more like black antennas are out there now. Not obviously the ones on the left side of the screen are the Lars Homestead ones, but those ones they kind of almost remind me of the ones from like the Rogue One farm, or not farm. Yeah, it's a farm that Jyn Erso lives on.
Urso's farm, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of like, so that's I don't know what that's from, but nothing really huge was going on. They were just, it looked like they were packing stuff up and bringing new stuff out, but it wasn't really much going on at the.
Getting ready for the monster truck rally.
Yeah, in terms of like the exterior location stuff, pretty slow.
Grief is a monster truck driver now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he got out of bounty hunting. Well, Filoni's like, I did all these 80s callbacks and people think I came up with it. It's rad. I gave the Rambo bandana to that one freak on Bad Batch. That's rad.
They're bringing back Bigfoot?
Bringing back Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Not the Sasquatch, not the Chewbacca, but the actual truck.
The Hulk Hogan of trucks.
The Hulk Hogan of trucks, yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, but I went all the way down there. Did the legwork. Wasn't a lot going on. So
got your steps in for the day.
Got my steps in for the day. Got to go down to the LA area and listen to podcast and music, which is the second best part of that whole trip. It's just been I like being in the car actually and just listening to music or listening to podcast. I can't do it at home. At home I'll play music, but I can't listen to podcast at home.
And with LA traffic, it's like you get to just take your time, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it's like funny because when you're out, just if you're just doing driving stuff or like during the pandemic, when you just can't really go too many places, safely. My favorite thing is I love Diet Dr. Pepper, sponsored by Diet Dr. Pepper. But it's only $1 for a large one at McDonald's. And the funny part about it is it took me longer to get my Diet Dr. Pepper at McDonald's than to drive all the way down to the Mandalorian set. I was like, I think I spent more on gas than this $1 drink, but I don't have to go inside, so it was kind of worth it.
So I was putting this out into the ether, the web, the etherverse, the interwebs, whatever. The last Suicide Squad movie, and I'm gonna say it again because the new Suicide Squad movie is coming out. How Pepsi or Coca-Cola or any of these have not taken the opportunity with the Suicide Squad movies to make a limited edition soda with all their sodas put into it and call it the Suicide Squad drink, right? Where you just take a little bit of all their sodas and put it into the cans. Just like we used to do at the 7-Eleven, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then, the Suicide Squad drink.
Yeah. Yeah. At the same time, they would probably get canceled on Twitter. Suicide isn't a joke.
No. They had Suicide Squad.
Mental health isn't a joke. They should call it Suicide Squad.
It isn't a joke until like someone on their political opposite end that they don't like, they believe has mental issues, and then they can clown them all day, right?
I'll tell you this: it's a joke until there's no more Nirvana. That's when it's a joke, and then it's not anymore. No,
we're at the bounce house, buddy. What are you?
Sorry. Oh yeah, it's bounce house.
You're the one parent who's like, yeah. So that time Cobain often. No, not here, man. It's a bounce house. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, somebody's like, wow, little Jimmy. Look at him, how happy he is in there. And I'm like, we probably wouldn't be here right now if Cobain had made it.
If Reagan had stepped up, Freddie would have lived. No, not here. Like, it's too much. Missed the window by 2 years. Ridiculous.
You know, I on a side note, no wonder I'm such a bummer. I just remembered when I was in high school, when it was like a rainy day and we couldn't go out and do stuff, and we'd like stay in the class.
Mm-hmm.
They would make us watch And the Band Played On. like every time it rained. Like we weren't watching Ernest or Willy Wonka or something stupid. They're like, nah, let's learn about why Reagan sucks.
That's funny because I was in California. I was in this I lived in a town called Lakeside with my father at the time, and my adopted father, but my father, whatever. So I just say it because people will see photos and go, oh. Anyway, they would play Animal Farm. Like every time, dude. It was like Animal Farm, and I'm like, guys, I can't take it anymore. Like, can't take the animal. I didn't know what the message was. I was like, can we watch some Sneetches and some Cats in the Hats and some Grinches and something other than this cartoon with a message, that I don't care about? Can we watch the G.I. Joe movie? I want to see Serpentor. Can we watch anything?
It would be rad if we just watched that G.I. Joe movie. By the way, so here is the press release. I'm not going to put it on the screen because I don't want to open my email on the screen. But Disney Plus announces season 2 of Star Wars: The Bad Batch, season 2 of original animated series from Lucasfilm, to stream in 2022 exclusively on Disney Plus. London, UK. Today, Disney Plus announced the second season of the critically acclaimed animated series Star Wars: The Bad Batch, which will launch in 2022.
Time out.
Yeah.
When you start anything with London reporting, you have to say London reporting.
London reporting. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself and the Bad Batch.
And the Disney Plus no ad service, or ads only service where we charge you money to give you ads.
Yeah, right. Honestly, the whole fucking thing's an ad. You're basically paying to watch cartoon commercials.
Chapek's gonna get ya. Chapek's gonna get ya.
But it's all fans have enthusiastically embraced the action and drama of Star Wars: The Bad Batch. We are excited to see Star Wars animated universe continue to expand on Disney Plus, said Michael Paul, president of Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. As the dedicated streaming home of the Star Wars franchise, we can't wait for the second season of this fan favorite animated series.
Jason, you want to know one of my cardinal rules? Never trust a man with 2 first names.
Right? Never play cards with a man with 2 first names. Or no, it's the name of a state. Last name of a state. Commenting on the second season announcement, executive producer Dave Filoni said,
"It's true, actually. No, hold on. If you were to walk in with Jim Narlins, you wouldn't fucking play cards with him, right?
Nope.
Like, I'm gonna sit down. So it's Lando versus Travis, Kentucky, Minnesota, right? Nope. And you're like, no, Lando, don't do it.
Nope. Dave Filoni says, the entire Lucasfilm animation team, and I would like to thank Disney Plus and our fans for the opportunity to continue telling the story of the Bad Batch. Do you like my hat?
Did you see those? There was like a TikTok or a video going around a while back where it was like a guy did everything super aggressively, like normal stuff, like doing laundry, and he throws it in there, or he says "thank you," like just like real aggressive.
Is that the guy who says like positive things to women, but like shouts it like he's being violent almost? Like
he's Mutt Williams, right? Like, yeah. So just read that, like super aggressive.
Yeah. Well, that's how it was actually dictated. It just sounds different in writing. But yeah,
I always read it as Macho Man. The Lucasfilm team.
Oh yeah.
Cream of the crop.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I've been saying on the show for the last couple of weeks that there was going to be one. All the indications were that they were doing it. And that's good. I mean, it's nice to know that it's not a one and done. It's nice to know that the stuff will have. No, Resistance had more than one season though. but it was
Not
just
in my world.
yeah,
Not how I
no.
remember time.
No, no, I'll be honest though, like on with Resistance, I started it like the look and then liked a lot of stuff about it. And then as it went on, I couldn't actually bring myself to watch it week by week. So I would like watch a bunch at once. And it was really hard for me to finish that one. And that's rare because I mean, like, I love the Clone Wars, like I'm not like somebody who's like animation turns me off, or it's completely like, if it's not live action, it's not for me. Like, I'm not necessarily like that. But that one, I just didn't really, just didn't matter. It just felt like nothing mattered in it.
Well, my wife and I have been digging through Doctor Who season 11, right? And I like Jodie Whittaker. I like the cinematography. I like her companions. The writing is dumb. Like, and I mean dumb for Doctor Who. Like, and not dumb, like just fall asleep, boring dumb. I don't know how to describe it. It felt like a bunch of people were like, oh, here's all the things that go in a Doctor Who episode. We'll shove them in there, but there's nothing. There's the je ne sais quoi.
So like double-decker buses and stuff.
I wish, man, that'd be great. So everything I learned about the UK was in an Austin Powers film. That's true.
Or a beer commercial.
Beer commercial.
Yeah. But I got the vibe, I guess, from the internet that people were super happy about getting more Bad Batch, which is good. I mean, there's nothing worse than ambivalence. That's pretty much, that's where things go to die. It's just when nobody cares.
Well, Mr. Miyagi said, karate good, karate bad, karate both sides, in the middle, get hit from both sides, right? Like,
right.
So
right.
I'd rather be super bad or super good, but
I actually got a press release about Cobra Kai today that's coming out in December. I like that show. It's really dumb, but I like it.
I'm waiting for them to become the new Power Rangers. Like, that show could just pivot into the Cobra Kai. They all just team together in giant robots, It has that same blend of humor.
I just want Danielson to get his ass I want to see him. I want to see him get hospitalized. You and
I want the David Fincher's Cobra Kai.
yeah,
we do. We're not getting that, but
that'd be great. Edward Norton guest starring on an all new episode of Cobra Kai.
I want the Charlie Coffin's Cobra Kai, where it turns out that Johnny's just talking to him. Daniel's like a figment of his own imagination. Like it's all going on in his head, and he's still drywalling and drunk in his Trans Am. I mean, none of this has happened.
None of it happened. It was all a dream. Yeah. So okay, really quick. Let's hit the chat before I lose what's on there. Star Wars in game. How's it going? It says, I have the high ground on this podcast.
In the bounce house,
it's not a podcast. It's not a podcast.
It's internet radio.
It's a stream. it's a radio video. Radio video should be on my new YouTube channel.
Should be your band. So neither one is on the radio or on video. Like, that would be a great band.
Jedi Fallen Order series. Tell me it is so. I don't know.
I know. I feel the same way about Mortal Kombat. The story and everything in the game is so cool that like movies do it shortchanged. Like, there's so much time in that, and you don't have to worry about production value and Fallen Order because it's a video game. Like, just leave it there. Like, it would be too expensive to do that as a series.
Yesterday I was hanging out in Star Wars Santa's show during his chat, watching his show, and they were talking about Thrawn the whole time, and I wanted to I just done this show. I didn't want to get too into it with them. I didn't want to come in there and just so I just made some jokes and hung out, but
got banned.
No, but it's like, that's I am excited about where they're gonna take Thrawn in live action, which was the topic of his show, and the discussion was good. So if you're into this little thing, you should go watch yesterday's show that Star Wars Santa did. But my whole thing is like, after watching his, what was formulating in my mind about Thrawn, and ties into what you just said, is that the live action version of Thrawn is going to define him pretty much forever. Doesn't matter how many people read Heir to the Empire, more people are going to watch it in that one airing that he comes into live action and are going to remember that as the freshest memory, that if that is going to literally define the character. And that's what is really weird about like when you're introduced to a character in Heir to the Empire, where you get all this backstory, you get to just chill with him in a room with his little underling,
and it works in a book.
And it works in a book, and it develops in a book. And I'm like, wow, they're gonna really have to, if he's the same guy. And that's like the question that like I have in my head right now is he and Ezra basically end up on these hyperspace whales, like space creatures that kind of invented hyperspace in the Star Wars universe.
Go back and tell 1992 Rob that and just watch my mind go, what?
You know what I would say? At least it's not a fucking Yelsamiri or whatever that thing was called. That was just dumb. But
I didn't think that was dumb. That was smart. If you got to interact with a Jedi, there would be a way to cancel out the Force.
But that's the thing. If the Force is in everything, you can't have just some critter canceling it.
It's like a magnet. It just polarizes it.
I mean,
deleting the Force.
Zahn agrees.
Polarized.
Yeah, you and Timothy Zahn agree with each other. Me, nothing stops the Force. Nothing. But
except white slavers. I mean,
except Disney and my ideas.
Sometimes Ambien.
No, but what was I saying? Basically, I lost it now. No. With Thrawn though. So, anyways, there's always a chance when we meet Thrawn, he and Ezra have been back. I don't think that's the case. I think the case is going to be that her friend is missing and Thrawn is related. But at the same time, it is weird that when Ahsoka is looking for Thrawn, she says she wants Thrawn. She doesn't say Ezra. She says Thrawn. Now, that could be to preserve the mystery that Ezra's involved and leave the red herring that maybe he did come back already, and that's why she's hunting him. But at the same time, I kind of think it won't. My hunch is it won't go that way. And so when we get to Thrawn, he may have been with Ezra Bridger in an enemy mine style situation, which is like where these two dudes are like marooned on a moon and then who were enemies at war, become friends for survival, and then eventually essentially roommates. And then the alien has a baby. But just let's forget that part.
People think things are political now. Go watch Enemy Mine.
So what if we get Thrawn and he's a different guy? You know what I mean? Would they do that? On one hand, it would be super radical to see Thrawn show up and he's just completely a different, not what you were expecting, and has changed. On the other hand, people have expectations of what they want to see in live action Thrawn, and then the only way you would ever get that would be to do flashbacks. So it's kind of like wishy-washy about how that goes, or about how that could go.
But they have to do them in montage form.
Yeah.
You know, he has to start like working out and running, and then he does the feet, and then it goes back in time and it sees them as besties on the whales, and they're arguing, but then they eventually work together, and then they're running on the beach, and then they jump, and they're in little shorts.
Well, what if they're just out there marooned someplace, it starts to rain, and then you start to see like the blue running, and it turns out he was in blueface the whole time.
Oh no.
What if it goes that way? Not appropriate. But I mean, it could happen.
I think it's a good possibility that if they wanted to adapt some of that Heir to the Empire and have like a rogue Jedi, he could have convinced. Maybe he turned Ezra to the Red Fleet side. You know what I mean? Like Ezra is like, he became,
if they did that though, when you watch Rebels and how everything culminates in like this boy bringing all these people together, and then him sacrificing himself to pull Thrawn away so that they could complete the mission, it would shit on the end of the series. If he just goes out there and then becomes like indoctrinated by him, but
welcome to life.
welcome to Star Wars, where there needs to be constant, constant drama, like Twitter.
Oh no. Thrawn
Yeah,
starts his new social media as Thrawner,
Droner. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
but yeah. So anyways, but I'm kind of curious about how they're going to tackle that character. And no one ever talks about what's his name, Joris Kavoth. I don't know if that's how you say
Saboth.
it.
Saboth. Yeah.
Saboth. Yeah, I started reading that when I was like 9 or something. So I'm like, I have this made up childhood pronunciation in my mind. His thing, the bad idea about him, or I should say not the bad idea, but the idea that doesn't connect with current canon, if you will, is that he's a clone. And
Oh, he's a strand.
he's a strand.
He's
a
a
strand
strand
cast. He's a strand cast.
Yeah.
No, but they've set it up where, like, they don't really, the clones don't have the force. So yeah, they could make it where he was simply the equivalent of an inquisitor or something like that. And they could retell that whole story in a different way. You know what I mean? That whole story, which is sort of like, which would not be unlike when they take a novel and turn it into a film and add new characters and delete some and change
Yeah, the Civil
all
War
kinds of things.
movie is an adaptation of the idea and the events of the Civil War storyline. It's not in the Civil War comic. I mean, Green Goblin was the main bad dude. Like,
For one second, I did not follow, and I thought you were talking about the American Civil War, and I'm just like, what?
And when Bruce Banner decided to take on the South,
it was pretty badass.
Yeah, Green Goblin was like, no, we're seceding, and
my favorite part was when the Hulk took General Lee and was just doing that with them.
Stan Lee?
Yeah.
What did you do to Stan Lee?
Stan Lee as General Lee. Oh, that's not right.
Excelsior! No, Stan, you're on the wrong side.
Yeah, so to go back to Bad Batch, I guess the question I have is, was it a strategic idea for some reason to release that today on the eve of the second to last episode, or on the eve of the final arc? I believe it's the second to last episode. And
I'm gonna say yes, to quote Atlantis.
And what does that say? Don't
get your hopes up.
Yeah, no, I'm wondering if this arc is going to feel definitive. Like, okay, that was it, and they want you to know, no, there's more coming. Or do they want to get the big news in so that way this doesn't disappoint and you go, oh, well, maybe it'll be better next year.
I know I've only seen 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what came before it, which I'll sit through eventually. But I don't see any arc. They have a little thorn in their side with this Imperial guy and some clones hunting them down, and maybe now they got to get their friend out of jail. But they've been getting people out of jail in the last 2 episodes. Last 2 episodes was getting people out of jail. So it's I'm there is no we have this penultimate goal to do this thing, and that's the whole point of the episode. I mean, the season, right? The overall season. There's no real big bad major threat or their goal of trying to free the clones from something. I don't know.
So I think the A story is how the little girl becomes part of their family. The B story is how their friend was manipulated by Order 66 and has turned against them. I'm guessing he either is turned back at the end of this arc, or he fights his programming to save them and dies. And so it's but that's kind of the arc. And then the C storyline is what happened to the cloners and the stormtroopers. How did that all go down? And and that's happening over, over the over several episodes. So it's like one of the Sieg story, as I call it, is more of a Star Wars lore, fun facty kind of thing. It doesn't feel very personal for the most part. But maybe if they go in next season, maybe we will start to see normal people getting conscripted in the stormtroopers, and maybe they'll make that personal. Maybe they'll be, you know what I mean? Maybe that will be kind of where that goes down. And then we do kind of have a slight mystery about Omega. What's her deal? Is it just that she has Jango blood? Because we learned that episodes ago now. What's the deal with that? Why not go to Boba? Boba seems like he's out there for hire. I think maybe he was a fugitive around the Clone Wars time, so maybe that's why they couldn't do it. That's my one explanation, is that he was in prison and he escaped. They can't really hire a convict in this instance. Might be the idea, and then they never got a chance once the Republic fell to get a hold of him and do it. So she was the answer. Yeah, it's definitely like what is the power in that, or what's the point of that? Part of me is starting to suspect that was added into that episode a little bit late into production, and the Boba stuff is never dealt with, and that's what's going to come in the next season. I'm hoping I'm hoping something happens in the last two related to it, but it would not. But I don't see how we have time to really deal with that and deal with Crosshair, being turned into an asshole. So
the most interesting thing I've seen so far in the show is the Kaminoan thing.
Yeah,
that was legitimate, and like when those poor little kids are being marched off to their death, essentially,
yeah,
without saying it. So it's like that was really interesting. Like what happens, tying up the cloners and all the Clone Wars stuff, maybe with Omega being like the protagonist of that storyline, like in a way that, I mean, if you were to tie up what happened to Kamino and all the clones and the ones they were building and how that got shut down, there's no one to follow for that had a stake in it other than Boba, and maybe that isn't what they wanted to do. So they created a new character to follow that storyline, in a way that, if I had to guess, and that's just me putting Play-Doh on the wall, So.
Yeah, and Book of Boba Fett will have aired by then. So
let's not put too much on Book of Boba Fett though. Like I feel like right now, because no one knows what it is, we're all like, and it could be this, and it could do with that, and never underestimate them to do absolutely nothing.
Right, but
like there's always that one chance that they could be like, nah, it's just cool Boba fights.
Yeah, it could be, but if he has any lines, or if there was any, they were making them at the same time, and I get the impression they're not. That's a very nervous, like, catwalk for them, if you will, or whatever, tightrope to walk, where if they write one dumb line in Book of Boba Fett about something, then it doesn't work. Then they have this like huge headache, and then they have to change something else in a different production. So I could kind of see them being like, let's deal with this before we deal with him in it at all. And then I also think, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I would not be surprised if once Book of Boba Fett hits and they have now established the live action future of the character, then he's open game. I bet you, like, that's when the floodgates for how to use Boba, because they really haven't done shit with him. I'm guessing sort of they were going to do a film, so there was like nobody could touch Boba because we want to keep him for that film. Film turns into the television series, and so I think after that is when he's probably open. But we'll see. I'm sure they'll talk about how they wanted to use Boba Fett for years now and couldn't, and why, and stuff like that once that series hits. So we'll see what they say. But, and on a side note, to go back to Star Wars in Games comment about a Jedi Fallen Order series, I really enjoyed playing that game. My 7-year-old to him, that is the best Star Wars. Like, no joke. Like, he is into it. So
Can I
I
make a
have,
point about that game too? Just
yeah,
one little.
yeah, of course, man.
When they make a sequel, and obviously they can spend a little bit more money on it than they had on the first game because it's kind of a tight budget.
Mm-hmm.
I would really hope that they'd just allow you to make your own protagonist. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, I know that means they'd have to probably do like 3 or 4 different recordings of the protagonist's dialogue, depending on how you do it. So it's a little bit of a technical issue, nightmare or whatever.
Yeah.
But I look, one, I'm not a fan of Gotham. I don't like that actor. I just
Yeah.
don't like him. You know, I can't. I know most people do. You ever just meet an actor where you're like, they are perfectly great. They don't work. Dennis Quaid, don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just something about Dennis Quaid's dumb freaking face. Oh, I can't.
What about Randy Quaid?
Huh?
What about
now,
Randy Quaid?
No, but although it brings a lot of things into context.
I like that he became the guy from the vacation movies. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, I like him as Cousin Eddie. It turns out he really is Cousin Eddie. Like that. You know, I think here's the thing. I was not the biggest Chevy Chase fan as a kid.
Yeah.
And I know he's a complete asshole, according to Dan Harmon and every person who's ever worked with him. But I have to appreciate Quentin Tarantino made a point on the Joe Rogan podcast, whatever.
I saw that clip.
Yeah, he goes, every Bill Murray movie in the 80s was about Bill Murray being Bill Murray and then making him not Bill Murray at the very end. Like around the 80% mark, he becomes like a good person. He stops being Bill Murray. But in every Chevy Chase film, even though they resolve whatever happens, Chevy Chase is still an asshole Chevy Chase. Like he still has his dickish nature at the end of every Chevy Chase film.
Yeah.
And watching him deal with Cousin Eddie in all those movies, like I just appreciate that a little bit more than maybe some of the. I like when they turn Bill Murray good in Scrooge and Groundhog Day, but that's about it. Like so. Anyway,
yeah.
But I do think
Bill Murray's a lot cooler though. It's still a fact.
He's way cooler.
Yeah,
I'm just saying
cooler.
The way like those films were written for whatever reason. Maybe like, and by the way, Chevy Chase is probably the nicest in Three Amigos, right? And even there, he's a dick. When he's still a dick. He's drinking the water. Like that's something Chevy Chase would do to his friends in the desert.
Oh, did you hear that they're making Fletch with John Hamm?
Look, man, I've been hearing about Fletch remakes since Kevin Smith in the early 2000s when he tried to do it with Jason Lee.
I think this one is happening because they have the actor though.
I had Jason Lee.
Oh yeah, that was his intention, right? But anyway, we'll see.
I think it was a rights issue, but he wrote it. He wrote the script. So
yeah,
it wasn't like anyway. But I do hope that they let you make your own protagonist, just because I would just like to make my own character. It's games. Let me make my own character.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, tricky one, I think, for them, because I am with you. I would rather make my own character. I never saw Gotham, so I had no love or hate for the kid who plays, what's his name, Cal Kestis, something like that. He did look a bit Opie-ish to me, and I was kind of like, this isn't necessarily like the avatar I would want for my Star Wars adventure. But I also can see it from the studio's point of view. Like, for instance, if you played the Knights of the Old Republic, your Revan might have been a lady. That's fine. But then they go into canon, and then it's not a lady.
Look, they want their own canon character. Like that's the default character is their canon character. I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm just saying, let me make my own character. Right?
I'm
had
with
that
you.
tech. The only thing that's difficult is they'd have to record the audio 4 times or 5 times just to get a variety of voices in there. But they got the money now. You know what I mean? That is not a super complicated thing to do. I know some audio engineers like, shut up.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You do it, So
or maybe they're like, yeah, more work,
Hey man, that keeps the contract going another 6 months.
Yeah,
perfecto.
Yeah, and it gets more actors work too. But it's I mean, in a perfect world, there would be like you could play as the canon character, or you could make your own. I would be up for that too. Yeah,
I'm waiting for the day when AI gets so good it can like generate the rigs and modify the animation sets on the fly, so
Mhm.
that I could make a character that looks like Chunk from Goonies, and it
Yeah.
would fly within game, like, you know, like, because it's impossible to do with the process that we make games now. But if somehow with the magic of AI, like, it could figure out how to like morph whatever the bones, and you didn't break the levels because of the height restrictions, but it'd be great to be able to make whatever character you really wanted.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of can see VR leading to a lot of stuff where they're able to basically put you in the game a lot easier too, in terms of that style stuff. And that's one of the things that I dig about VR in Star Wars games, is that you look down and you see the costume essentially on your form basically. And that is, I think, the best way. And now I'm never gonna say that like sitting on the couch or laying in bed playing like I don't know, is that a hack and slash? I don't know what you call the genre of Fallen Order. Third person
Adventure.
fighting whatever adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like not really like the same thing, but they should totally really develop better VR stuff. Like
Well,
Vader
point
Immortal
on
is
that, like
really good.
apparently, like, there's a big PSVR 2 leak from Sony to
Mhm.
developers.
Oh, really?
So I'll put it in the 50-50 category, but it sounds legit just based on the type of info that was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is that Sony they're calling it NG VR, not PSVR 2, whatever. But their big thing was that they wanted less experiences and more full games, and that they would be able to play on the screen and in VR. And I'm like, well, those are two different. I'm like, if that's the case, then that's going to require more third person stuff versus first person, because it's so the mechanics of moving in VR are not the same.
Yeah.
You can't just put God of War and you're the God of War. Like, it doesn't. It's weird how
No.
that
No.
would work out.
Yeah. No. Do you have a VR?
Yeah, I
setup at
have
all?
Oculus One, and I have the original
Which
DK.
one?
Yeah, but I have the first gen Oculus. Yeah,
Yeah.
Quest,
Yeah.
Oculus Quest. Yeah.
Yeah. I use the Quest 2, and I dig it a lot. Like I also use a cloud computing shadow account for my PC VR stuff. And I just
Right.
like stream to the Oculus via that, and I played that Star Wars, that last X-wing game.
That's how
So
it
good.
should all work. That's how it should all work. And that's one of the things, like, I won't. I have a PS5 now. I will invest in a PSVR 2 if it has streaming capability.
Right.
If it's a cable, I won't do it. And
Yeah. People hate cables.
Not just because I don't have enough room, or even the cable alone is a problem. The real problem for me is that I don't want to accidentally yank that fucking PS5 out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is too sensitive a piece of equipment to be tethered.
Well,
It's
so sometimes
ridiculous.
like I go over Randy's house and we play what is the game called? The X-wing one, the X-wing VR game that just came out.
It's called Squadron.
Squadrons.
Squadrons.
Like, yeah, we'll like play that so long that my headset starts to die, and I have to get this super long cable and plug it in. Once I have that in and I'm doing that, like, even that annoys me. Like, I find that to be really just like restrictive. It's just not.
Thing
as
is,
nice,
I
but-
used to be I worked in tanks in the army, so like, it's like having a CVC on. I think, like, if they found a way to give you like a CVC like ear helmet thing that it would plug into, where it felt more like, and in game you saw the fucking thing plugged into your ship.
Yeah.
All of that would work way better, like,
Yeah.
and if it had like a little kinetic, when you move the cable, it would move with it, like,
Right.
it would feel like an element in the game. You would be less tied to it. So I'm not as bothered by that.
Yeah.
What I'm bothered by, again, is just breaking the shit out of my PS5. Also, my PS5 is in I have a small game cave den. Like, there's not room to move for VR up there. Like, I do my Quest either in the garage, or I have IR emitters for my backyard at night. Like, so at night, if it's not moisture-y out, it's dry out, like during the summer.
Yeah.
I can just set up the IR emitters and then go outside and like run around like an idiot in the dark. And I fight ninjas, and it's great because you got the wind on your back. And you're like, all right,
Yeah.
ninjas, bring it on. And my wife could just hear me out there at like 1 a.m.
my son loves Blade and Sorcery. in
Yeah, it's
VR,
good.
there's just the Star Wars mods for it. Like every lightsaber ever created is on there, and you're able just to like put all those mods in, and they are insane for not doing a Blade and Sorcery ripoff lightsaber dojo like game entirely. Like they're little things that they do where you can mess with the lightsaber in the games that they put out. They're okay. It's fun for what it is, but it's not the same as, hacking
For
apart battle
whatever
droids.
reason, bro, for whatever reason, Disney corporate does not like to make video games. They
Yeah.
do not want to make video games. They got close with Junction Point and they're like, we're not spending money on this, and then they canceled it all down. And they're like, we're just licensing out. And I'm like, Walt would have been, if Walt had just continuously lived forever, right?
Well,
Like
his head's frozen. They could just put it on a robot. And
him and Ted Williams become this Hydra. Who would be the third one? FDR. So yeah, that way, you get the creative, the sports, and healthcare. So,
all right.
But if Walt had kept going, Walt would have had Mickey Mouse in a video game. Disney would have been making video games in the 80s.
Sure.
First party. They would have been licensing games out. They would have had a fully animated video games,
Yeah.
Like with Aladdin, when they used the frames of animation and gave them to another studio to use, so that the Aladdin on the Sega Genesis had like more fluid Disney level quality animation.
Do you mean Ezra or do you mean Aladdin? I just need to make sure. Sorry.
They are starting to blur, Do you mean Will Smith or Robin Williams?
Right. Dark Wintra says, out of curiosity, once upon a time, they would have announced the second season for a series like this before the first episode was released. And then he goes on to say, how long would it take before they employed various means to alter those voices? This is new actors to voice them as a way of defeating the Empire's attempt to locate them.
Huh? I don't know. Hold on. I don't understand that.
Yeah, he goes on to say, I wonder if that's why War Mantle was established, so Palpatine didn't have to wonder which clone that was. Oh, okay. I kind of see where he's going with it. He's basically going like where when you have clones defecting and they all look the same, it gives a huge advantage to the
Have you seen this guy? And it's like a whole room of them.
yeah, right. But I would also say at the same time, like when you have a galaxy full of stormtroopers that are all conscripted people, kind of run into the same, the same kind of like problem, more or less, I would think. And then Geek Furia says, how many seasons of one actor playing all the roles do you think they can deliver without a Murder on the Orient Express scenario of that actor by fellow voice actors? Right? Yeah. I mean, it is a pretty amazing, almost one-man show when you get down to it. But
production likes it. It's like the DuckTales cartoon had a lot of extra voice actors, but certain characters have to go for episodes because of budget. Like and you see that really like in the second season. You're like, oh, these characters did disappear for like 2 episodes, and they do talk about them. Like, oh yeah, they're doing something, or something back there. But that's just because you can't afford to bring everyone, or even with just schedules. Like people have scheduling, so
right. Oh, Jesse says, still haven't seen any of the first. Yeah, I would at this point I would wait and watch it all at once at your own speed if you haven't got into it yet, if you're even going to. Richie says, any updates on how close Kenobi, Indy 5, and Willow are to completing filming? So I don't know for certain, but I think Kenobi might be done. Or if Kenobi isn't done, I think it's probably only doing the volume shooting at this point, unless they're filming somewhere outside in Arizona that we don't know about in secret or something like that. But people I know who worked on the shows are going on to another show. You guess which one? And that's what makes me think that too. So
it doesn't take long to film live action stuff though, man. I mean, like movies get done in like 12 weeks, 16 weeks, so it's, I mean, those are big films, so like they could do it in 8 weeks if they needed to,
Yeah. And like on Mando season 2, it was able to be completed with the lockdown stuff going on because so much of the effects are done before they even start filming, because they have to like get the volume effects essentially, done so that that way they can use it. And yeah, so thank God that happened that way. But I do kind of think that we're going to see Mando filming in October, just based off the fact that we are in August right now, and the builds that are going on are, I don't want to say lazy because then I'm like calling people lazy. It's very slow. There are not many people there. Today, for instance, I probably saw 3 people who were working. Like it was like, and there's probably some I couldn't see, obviously, but very small team working. Whereas when you get closer to the production, you'll probably see 25, 30, 40 people running around out there. And so that makes me think that it's like, yeah, they're just kind of small team just doing some stuff, and some stuff is already being set up, but at a really slow rate. It might even been set up because they didn't have a space. They didn't have space to put the supplies so they needed to build that part. So they had the space, because I have to imagine space is tight.
Or it could be as well, they've changed their rules on set and they're going to require everyone to be vaccinated, and that pushes production back like 4 weeks or something.
Well, all of the previous seasons of The Mandalorian, or the 2 previous seasons, were pretty much like very late August started prepping, and then in September started building, and then in October we're filming. Like that was kind of like how it went in the past. And part of me wonders if they're just doing a very slow start in case there are any problems, in case there, you know what I mean? Like let's just kind of get moving. That way we have time. But yeah, it depends on when it's going to air, on the old television. So, and to go back to Willow, Willow, I think is still filming out in the Wales area. And
interesting, we haven't had a lot of on-set photos of that, being that they're doing so much out in the real world, right?
Yeah. And I've talked to people who are working on it, but it's like it's really small. Nothing's really coming out yet, so I can't say too much about Willow at the moment. I think I'll have more to say, but also people don't really give a shit. I don't think people are going to realize that they care until there is like a tease of it, and then you kind of see what it's going to be. And because like my whole thing about it is, if it's like the Willow movie continuing, if it's on form how Star Wars is, then I'm all about it. If it's like, oh, how can we redo Willow, and it feels like that Merlin show from the BBC or whatever a couple of years ago, don't really care. You know what I mean? That's kind of like where I'll fall on it. So Star Wars Santa says Resistance season 2 was much better than season 1.
Santa's a very kind soul.
Mm-hmm. Thrawn Talk says the Donald Faison character was cringe. And Star Wars Santa says, but the bar is really low. Not saying season 2 is great. It just wasn't terrible.
That's the Ain't It Cool News quote on the DVD.
Yeah. Thrawn Talk podcast, Jacob's Ladder, Cobra Kai. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. Star Wars in game says podcast killed the video gods. That'd be funny. Swinging Through Comics says, I love the Clone Wars animation so much. I'll take as much Bad Batch as needed to keep it coming. I could have done with a single season. Maybe they can do a series handoff showing building off the same tech. Yeah, in a lot of ways, like the positive side, and I also think in a way that Bad Batch was probably easier to get going, is that the last season of Clone Wars and Bad Batch share assets and development look and all of that stuff. So in a certain way, they kind of, I think, were able to cut down on the pre-production cost by basically doing them together. And as a person who loves Clone Wars, I think that the Clone Wars look and most of the Clone Wars storytelling style is the best way to do that. This kind of show, I think it's much better than Rebels. Like had Rebels been done in this tone and this style, I would have preferred it a lot. That's not to say I don't want them to try new things and have new looks for shows and stuff. It's just we know how it can go the other way in terms of quality, and you never know what to expect. Resistance once again was, I think, a better step in the right direction, but for whatever reason, that Clone Wars look and where they've taken it to now is just by far the best. Like the matte paintings, or I don't know if they're called matte paintings still, but the digital paintings for exposition of planets and stuff like that. It's better than, I mean, hell, it's on the quality of what we would have got if they were making these as films in the 80s. It's for the most part, some of that stuff is very, very good. And
definitely it's better than what DreamWorks was doing in the 90s with hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
By far. So yeah, it's above. I mean, I mean, it's definitely above Toy Story. So I'd say right now there's somewhere around. They're not at Little Nemo-ish because they don't have the lighting for that. That's complex, It's subsurface scattering and fractals and all that kind of stuff. But I'd say it's around Toy Story 2-ish, right? I'd say pretty close around there.
Yeah,
if they wanted to do a big hairy monster, they could do it. It costs some money. So
yeah, it's still like when we saw Kessel in Rebels, and then we saw Kessel in the solo film. I did not feel like those were the same place, or there was any kind of connection that made sense to me. But I feel like canon. Yeah, but I feel like and visually it's weakly connected. But with what they're doing in Bad Batch, I feel like the stuff that we see in Bad Batch, like when they if we go to Nar Shaddaa or something in Bad Batch and we go there in a movie, I feel like those things are going to interface, and they're going to because the quality of the background work, for instance, is just so similar to what they would have designed for a film, and because they're just like drawing it or painting it out in those shots, they don't have to like make it an asset and spend all that money. So like I once heard Filoni a long time ago talking about how like when they were going to make like far away shots when he started doing Clone Wars, he was like we would build it because I didn't think and didn't know any better. He's all that as time went on, we realized we could just paint that background and not build it and save a ton of money and have more money for new character models and stuff like that. I don't know what it costs now, but I think I want to say it used to cost between $6,000 and $17,000 to do one character model for the animated shows. And like that's why when you got to Star Wars Rebels, you'd have like major characters in later episodes that were extras early on and stuff like that, because they just like it was too expensive to be able to make new ones. But the good thing
I
worked
on video game productions where it can take 8 weeks from concept to final, final rig complete. And I've worked on ones where they're like 6 months, 6 months for one, from concept through revisions, through modeling, through revisions, through animation, through revisions, through implementation into the game, plus revisions, 6 months. And that's like, and you think about all the people working on it, how much do they make a month, and multiply by that, then you're talking like $30,000 a character. So like 16 to 17 is actually really cheap when you think about what they're getting out of it, because they're able to reuse that for multiple episodes. Plus they got merch. So that's where the merch pays for that stuff. But I mean, the other thing too, when people, I think some people think like everything needs to be fully modeled to be realistic or believable. It is a point of completely diminishing returns. You just can't tell the difference, especially the farther back you pull out, the flatter things get. You know, it's basic camera technique. You do a shorter lens, everything flattens out. You do a longer lens, everything becomes depthy. So you get that bokeh, right? That depth of field. But yeah, so like when I see a 2D matte painting, I'm like, yeah, but it's fine. Because you ever take a photograph of LA from, out by the mountains and it's flat. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no depth other than some haze, you
Right.
know.
Well, I mean, even on the original Star Wars films, like Bespin and stuff, I'm glad they upgraded it, but it worked fine in terms of it was a fantasy I was buying into. So when Bespin was just those kind of paintings in the background, I was like, okay, there it is. I'm cool with it. But yeah, they definitely stepped up from the last couple of years worth of stuff. And if they did keep it all in the same stuff, they're able to reuse things and probably when you get down to it, sort of digitally kit bash things a bit more. I think I've seen like a lot of that in this show, but it hasn't been. But I feel like it's been creatively done in this one. There was only one or two times I started to get kind of afraid, like, oh, great, I'm going to start seeing everything I've already seen before reused, and but
Their
it wasn't done
lighting
bad.
could come a long ways, bro. Their lighting
Yeah.
is still very flat and globally. There's there's
Mhm.
some good shots in the cockpits. I think they're lit really nicely. I think that looks a lot better than it has in the past, just from what I remember seeing.
Yeah.
But there's like scenes again, like when they're in the forest, you don't get any of like the trees creating the sparkles of light coming through none of that. You don't get any sort of high contrasts, time of day. Everything's sort of like noonish.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of magic hour shots, and when
Yeah.
you do, it's just orange and pink. It's not really magic hour. Like that's just a artist's. It's very arty where you just paint it, yeah, like a comic book. Like when I color in comics, it's like, yeah, it's orange pink.
Right.
So I think there's room in that for their tech to improve, and take whatever they have to the next level. Lighting is, I would, if I was them, man, I would really invest a lot in that. I mean, that changed Pixar's game
Mhm.
between, I mean, look at Finding Nemo and then go look at Monsters Inc. And the lighting in Finding Nemo is because they had no choice. The light underwater is just way different than light in the real world. And they had to completely change the way everything is lit. And things have little glows, and depending on where they're going, they kind of move in and out of focus. There's a little bit of that, what they got, chromatic aberration. Like it's very complex, and you cannot. If you want to see a film that tries to ignore it, it was a
Mhm.
film called Shark's Tale where they just
Mhm.
added like glows to things and it kind of just looks ravey. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And I think
Yeah.
Shark's Tale is kind of where they're at right now, and they need to push that lighting game up.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, the lighting game has come a long way from when you start with that original Clone Wars, and then you get to what they're using now.
Sure.
That's why I'm a little bit like that would be everything you're saying would be great, but I'm just glad it's not Star Wars Rebels, which was just like everything felt like it was made out of PVC or something. It felt like it
Right.
was a Jack. Everything looked like a Jack specific doll. You know?
At that point, I'm like, just do a 2D cartoon. I'm fine
Yeah.
with flat, but like CGI flat, unless they're going with flat rendering,
Mhm.
it's when they go halfway. Like, no, we'll have 3D models, but then we'll have flat everything else. Like, it doesn't. One thing doesn't benefit the other. Like when you go too 3D ish with your 2D art, you're complicating production. Like Klaus is a great example of how to do that, but that's 2 years for one 90-minute film. Like that.
Yeah.
They can't do that on a series. Like that's just an amazing bit of work that someone's willing to pay for, and I support that.
Mhm.
But Netflix is trying to I think they're making a Bone series, and I was like, man, it'd be great if SPA Studios, who did Klaus, was making Bone. But then I'm like, you can't do a whole series of that. That'd take fucking 7 years. So like, there
Mhm.
are realities to how you animate and render. So benefit to the style, right?
I actually wonder if we will never get an animated Star Wars film of really high quality. Let's say some kind of I don't know if Pixar is the way to go because it's a little bit more live actiony than that looking, but because by doing so would show how cheap these shows can look at times. You know what I mean? Like it would that be not in their best interest? But I
If
wish
they
they
did,
would.
if they did, it would come from like an anime studio, like the
Mhm.
studio that did This Is My Name, or 5 centimeters, millimeters, and whether that studio,
Yeah.
or Trigger or something super over the top 2D. But
Yeah.
yeah, for a 3D for Pixar to go, well, they're gonna do like a 90-minute Jakku CGI film, and it'll be all the adventure of Jack. It would it would make the stuff look bad, like Bounce House bad, like
Bounce House bad. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's people on YouTube who have taken Battlefront models and done really good lighting and redo scenes from the Clone Wars using the more realistic looking models and stuff like that. It definitely isn't like gonna blow your mind, but it's also like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I wish there was more stuff like that going on. At the
Well,
same time, with the amount of money it costs to do animation and stuff like that, maybe it's better just for them to invest in more live action. I don't know.
I wonder if there's a way to split the difference. So if you were building a video game, right, like Fallen Order 2, because
Mhm.
I watch a lot of streamers. So like if I can't have time to play a game, but I want to support it in some way, I'll
Mhm.
buy the game and then I'll watch a streamer play it, and then
Mhm.
I'll play it on my own for like 4 or 5 hours. So I got my weekend because I used to just rent games, guys. I couldn't afford to buy games as a kid. I used to rent them, and now you can't fucking rent nothing.
Mm-mm.
Like everyone was like, "Oh, I can't wait till the blockbuster dies." I'm like, "Yeah, I hate late fees too, but what's gonna happen to renting video games? Unless
Yeah.
you get a GameFly, which good luck. I'm not paying $20 a month, to rent games. So,
Yeah.
um, where are they going? Oh yeah, so watching those games, you're watching cutscenes, you're watching a series. So I almost wonder if there's a way where they could do that, but then use those models for the animated series. You know what I mean? Like the real
Yeah.
time stuff. So you could just take the same assets, same actors, get them all together, and have a whole series that's a prelude to that game, using all those models that they just do cinematically on Disney Plus or on their YouTube channel or whatever, and then that
Yeah.
leads into the game or it's post game or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Sort of like the what they were kind of trying to do that kind of stuff with webisodes and certain games like back in the day, but it didn't really go anywhere for whatever reason.
The
But
smarter move would be something like Catalyst, where they do it with the video game assets. So this way
yeah.
you're not spoiling the game, kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because the lighting and the real time lighting and the modeling of those games is so good. It aside from the mouth and the eyes right now, it surpasses what you're seeing on the Bad Batch. Like if you just go for fidelity,
Yeah.
like it's not even close. So that's where I'm like, at some point, real time animation everything being done in Unreal 5 or whatever will be the
Hmm.
way to go, not what we're seeing now.
Yeah, they did a good job with the Star Wars Squadrons. They did these like little mini movies, like for the good side and the bad side that came out before using that stuff. It was kind of like that same kind of concept, and it was good. But I will say the story in that game, love the game, but the story and the characters are just not good. Just very very weak. Just like it just like really like corny. It was like
EA's writing in general, man, like
yeah.
EA proper, it's not good.
Hmm.
Like, and I mean, forget their big story based games.
Hmm.
Just if you ever played through Need for Speed Heat or any kind of like sportsy game and they try to add this story to it,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, you're the rebel who's like being chased by the cop. Blah, 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 blah. Look, I get Vin Diesel would fucking love this, but like, I need the story-free version of this game. I just fucking want to race.
Yeah.
It's so horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. They all of the characters they one of them, there was this red faced alien. I think it was a lady, but it sounded like the guy from Family, the old man from Family Guy, who's always trying to get Chris into his basement.
Yeah. Would you like to see my
Yeah.
candy? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, want to come see my X-Wing fighter? Like it was really weird. It was, but
I got some penny whistles in here. Would you like to
yeah, but
get some Smarties?
yeah, but the actual game itself was good, and my hope about that game is that it was a prototype for the Rogue Squadron movie, and when they make a really good game, and I'm hoping it's the prototype, like that and for the because that movie was already signed on for when they greenlit that. And so I'm hoping that that those things like connect up and that we get a better version of it, because around the time of Rogue Squadron, that is the opportunity for them to do another VR flight sim game or to do another flight sim game. And that one, I don't think it can be better. There's things that could be added to make it better. There's missions that could be in there to make it better, but mechanically, environmentally, how you feel when you're in the cockpit, I can't see it getting that much better. You know what I mean?
do also love that opening sequence in Vader's Quest when you're in the ship and you're like piloting and the Star Destroyer comes over you and you're like looking out the window, you're like, and you get locked in, you know, you're like, motherfucking.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like it's something that it doesn't translate to watching it on the monitor on 2D. There's nothing about it. And if you've ever played the Vader's Quest on the Steam version, like if you stream that to your Quest,
Vader Immortal?
Vader Immortal, yeah. Whatever. Yeah, Vader Immortal.
Yeah.
So Vader Immortal, I don't know why I call it Vader's Quest, but that's something else. But Vader Immortal, if you ever stream that, the fidelity is 10 times better. And the Jedi Knight, I didn't like. So I have the Quest version, and I did that like training thing. I'm like, this shit's stupid. And then I got the streaming working from my PC to the Quest, and I was like, you know what? Let me see if there's a difference. It's phenomenally different. And the Jedi Academy training thing is amazing. You can get Darth Maul's saber, you can unlock all sorts of stuff, but the fidelity in that game is 10 times better than the Quest version.
On the Quest 2, if you bought it on the Quest 2, make sure you do whatever you have to do in your settings or using that program to what's it called? Quest something. You're able to put it in 120 hertz. Big difference too. You can force it. Yeah, big difference, and it's much better. Same thing with the other game as well, with the Galaxy's Edge game. That one right there. That game, it's kind of weird. It's like not really a great game, but it's not a bad game, and it's a fun Star Wars environment to like play in. And there were supposed to be more episodes, but they haven't hit yet. I'm curious if they're still coming or not. But I did enjoy it. I ended up doing like 100% completion on it, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm done. Really? I'm actually done." Because if you feel like you're starting like Legend of Zelda or something, like it's how it feels, and which I love about it. But it's very short. Not Vader Immortal short, but not far off. So, Star Wars Senna says, monetary. Oh, they're talking about monetary reasons of other channels, but yeah. So, anyways, we have one other thing I wanted to share from the Indiana Jones 5 News Twitter account. It says the clock seen on Indy 5 set in Glasgow is known as a Torsen pendulum or anniversary clock. These were popular gifts in the 50s, 60s, and were often sold at military bases. And then they asked if Indy's retiring. And you could see the Indy double right there with the clock with like a little ribbon on it.
Liam Neeson, dude.
It's Liam Neeson.
It totally is Liam Neeson. He's got the nose, the hair.
He's like, I pee-peed my pants and I put on this costume to hide it. And now they're making me do the whole film.
Yes, incontinence.
Somebody left a comment. They were like, "You've apparently never drank in an Irish pub," and I was like, "No, but if that's what happens, if that's where it takes you, it sounds like a pretty good time." But yeah,
you've missed out on so many life experiences, Jason.
I did. Yeah, right. I didn't
sheltered life.
It's true. I don't have a picture of it on hand, but if you guys remember back when they were filming the Nazi era stuff, we saw that Toby Jones has a little golden clock in his hand too. And I don't know if there's a link there, if it even was a
There's
golden
little
clock.
clue in there, and it has the secret map to something, you know.
But I don't think it's the same one. But I almost wonder if they're going to do a thing where like Toby Jones back in the 40s is retiring and that's the clock. And if like, for instance, we're going to like zoom in on the clock and then pull out to modern day Indy with him with the clock. And like now he is going through the same thing that guy was, 20 years before or whatever. I'm trying to figure out like how if these things rhyme in any way, if they do.
He pulls it out and it says, "No ticket."
No ticket.
Dick.
And then it goes cuckoo and it punches him in the face. No.
That is the Roger Rabbit sequence we need. From Roger Rabbit, like Eddie Valley goes, "No."
Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much. You have any Star Wars weirdness on you right now?
About my pants and face, or like
just about your life? No, like anything you pulled that we could
under the hat,
discuss?
right? Under the I got some stuff we can go in here, man. We can do this. So let's see. It's up in the share. You can jump right in there.
Yeah. Here we go. Add to stream.
So I've been pulling some stuff here from the Photo Archives book.
Yeah.
Star Wars Photo Archives, the prequel stuff, 99, 2005. So here's some Camino stuff I thought was kind of interesting. Personal note. So this is a painting that Doug Chiang did in development of Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
This is probably my favorite painting he's done throughout all the movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing that I'm like, that easily is very Sid Mead meets Macquarie, Like it would have been made in the 70s or 80s. You know what I mean? Like that is, and I know the movie kind of gets there, but I feel like this look is like the one that I was like, I wish if the CGI was just better at that time, it would have looked more like this, right? Because the waves they didn't have the volume.
Yeah, they were actually happy with that. They even made the water that if they did, they were like, we did this water, you guys, like we can't believe it. Like that.
I'm not
that's where
them. It's
and
limits.
Yeah, of course. And really quickly, people who don't know, like Sid Mead is an artist. I guess you would maybe call him like an industrial artist. I'm not sure what his actual like.
He's a concept artist, so you can say whatever. They say industrial because he designed products.
Yeah. Okay. But he his work in the industry is what led to the walking truck that led to the AT-AT. The AT-AT if you're a millennial. Yeah.
And all of Blade Runner he designed.
Yeah.
Which when you look at Coruscant is
Alien Load Lifter, also him. I believe.
Yeah. Sid Mead he was one of the best,
Mm-hmm.
So this is a quote from Doug Chiang. Doug says, George described Camino as a planet consumed by storms, but with very high-tech, sophisticated cities built on stilts. That image was very appealing since I've always liked the striking image of oil derricks in the North Atlantic, which is weird. Do you think little Doug was like, I like it, the oil thing with the sticks in the water?
I want to draw the sticks in the water.
Yeah. When I was painting, I was trying to capture that mood where there's a break in the weather and a shaft of sunlight is highlighting the city, but the rain and winds are still powerful. Which, and this painting, this book is so huge. Like this photograph here that I took just does not do it like justice. Like I really think, man, I know like they started doing digital concept art on Episode 2. They brought Ryan Church on, and I love that. But with 3, they did all pretty much digital work. I think maybe Derek Powers did some marker stuff and then would paint over it.
Was his name Derek or is it Dermont?
Sorry,
Dermont.
Hey man, I'm horrible with fucking names.
No. I know the names, and I'm like making sure that we're saying the right.
By the way, Dermont, totally the perfect Star Wars name. Dermont Powers, like that.
Oh, Dermont sounds like a badass, like Moff Dermont or something.
Yeah.
Grand Moff Dermont.
Oh, Moff Dermont.
Yeah.
Damn it, Jason. Damn you.
Moff Dermont, the monster man.
Yeah. I like that. So, but I do think so Macquarie, when he first did he did like a series of 12 paintings. So George, when he would walk into these studios, would set him down and go, and it looks like this, and it looks like this. And it was 12 key mood paintings. They do the
Yeah.
same in animation now with these things called color scripts, where they take the script and they do these little thumbnails in color. It used to be with pastel, now they do them digitally. Pixar has a whole book on color scripts. They don't script the whole film. They take the most important sequences. So like maybe 3 or 4 sequences, and then you'll get like 24 or 30 of these little things that show the mood and tone of the film in color. I really wish, man, that they would do more of this before they start the film. Like really limit themselves to 12. Because the problem I have with production now, because so many people are involved, and I've experienced this on some projects, there's too many options. There's too many options, there's too many ideas, and there's not enough clear and focused direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when you're limiting yourself to, hey man, we got some concepts, but we're gonna get this whole film down to 12 key moments, key paintings. And in this case, there are physical paintings. So like once Doug starts painting, man, you can't go around and be like, and make this thing bigger and make that bigger and do, like you gotta like commit, and then build off that. So I think that would actually make films have more of an identity. Does that make any sense? I really think. Yeah, like especially like episode 1, he did that. That's why the Naboo stuff is so. I feel the Naboo stuff and everything is so defined, versus I don't know what the cultures are in episode 3. There's so many of them. I don't know.
I remember, if I remember correctly, George Lucas used several Rothko paintings to be like, this is Coruscant, this is the lava planet, and this is Utapau. And I think that's what they used that was like his
in the original trilogy.
No, for episode 3.
Oh, for episode 3?
Episode 3. Yeah. It was and you always see that one Rothko painting with like the red, the red one. I don't know if it has a name, but the red one, and you could kind of see like all of the different colors that they would use for the lava and stuff, like how they kind of pulled it together from that.
Yeah, but they tend to just overdevelop now. I've been on projects. It's funny. So I can give you an example. When I worked on Crash Bandicoot, they needed at the very end of the game, they had an idea for a new level, and they're like, "Hey, we don't have." We had a separate team working on level design on that game. Airborne Studios, they're amazing. But on this particular case, they couldn't do the development of it because of production. So they said, "Hey, can we do this within our own team? You want to join on?" And it was me and 2 other illustrators who just had to figure out the concept, the look of it. And it took about a week where I got like the first one where they're like, that's the tone. It's this New Orleans Mardi Gras
right
called Offbeat. And then from that painting, when I say painting, it's like a digital sketch, but it was very clear in the tone. And then they were like, okay, that's great. Now you're off that, get back to the stuff. And they pulled that and had everyone built everything off that stuff. So like I did maybe 2 drawings total, little paintings. And when I see the game, I'm like, that's clearly all my drawings extracted to all these buildings from that one drawing. And it's when I see that, I'm like, that is way smarter than I've worked on some other stuff, man, that I'm under NDA for, where it's just like you watch them try to over design every little element and then piece it together, and it doesn't work, man. I just think I think there's too many options these days.
Right.
Anyways, but I would love to have a real lithographic painting of this, So it's beautiful. Now this quote, I love this because in the Force Awakens, there's that scene where Han Solo dies. Are you aware of this?
No.
Okay. No spoilers. Han Solo dies.
What?
And
what?
He's on this Ed Catmull walk, right?
Yeah.
I know.
Daddy Solo, no.
He's on this catwalk and on the catwalk, on the catwalk. I did that. And everyone was like, why don't they put handrails on there? He just fell over the side. It's ridiculous. Well, here's a little quote. I emphasize the space, meaning the Camino, to give a sense of danger. Like Doug Chain told me, there are no handrails in the Star Wars universe. So there it is right there in the book. Doug Chain says there are no handrails.
Well, can you imagine if Kylo Ren stabbed Han Solo, he fell on the floor. God damn it, son of a bitch! Yeah! And like died for 15 minutes,
holding on. Why did you do that? I'm very badly hurt.
you tricked me. I thought you were gonna give me a hug.
It's that Austin Powers scene where he's like down in the vault. You just hear him. I'm still down here. Help! Please. Oh.
So dumb.
It's a great way to kill time, right? That's clearly a killing time moment, but it works. But that's one of those things that I have a lot to criticize about JJ, but the lack of handrails is like, he didn't invent that. And if you look at the Bespin, even on the special edition stuff,
yeah,
or, like there's no handrails on any of those platforms anywhere, right. I mean, sort of on when Luke's fighting Vader, there's the one on the rail, but like, I think that they get rid of that quick. He just cuts them down.
Yeah.
Like
they kind of get broken in those movies. Yeah,
they obscure the shot.
Yeah, and I don't think the ones on Naboo count because they're more like banisters or whatever. I don't know what you call those, but
when they're fighting, there's no handrails.
No.
When Darth Maul and him are fighting on those platforms with the energy beams. So,
nope.
Yeah,
that's true.
So I thought it was a little unfair. And then we get into Rick McCallum, right?
Right.
So we were talking about what the hell does a producer do?
He's all kick ass, take names. Is that what he said?
Does he wear the jacket with the was it the little neck thing, right? And the cigar, the hand.
Right. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So this is a situation of Rick McCallum saying that they had planned to shoot the sequel in New Zealand, but they didn't have enough construction crews. We needed about 650 people. My guess is that's based off the Lord of the Rings, right? Because they were working in tandem, like friendly, working back and forth and sharing info on the Lord of the Rings and the prequel projects. Like on the Lord of the Rings making of DVDs, they're like, yeah, Rick McCallum came down and we shared what we were doing. He was showing us what he was doing. So my guess is they wanted to go to New Zealand too and kind of keep those crews going, but they didn't have enough people on those shoots. So Gavin Bakay says, we made 2 trips to Sydney in July and August of 99. We needed to find out what we could archive there with local labor facilities. And then McCallum says, Fox were contemplating making the former Sydney Showground at Moore Park into a studio and a theme park. The studio director said, if you make the commitment for 2 films, we'll finish the studio. So they decided to go down to Australia because of the cost, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, so Rick McCallum goes, another factor was the cost. The Australian dollar crashed. So the first year it was something like 60 cents to the US dollar. And the third year was like 55 cents to US dollars. So for example, I think we made episode 2 for around $32 million after the rebate.
Whoa.
And then the rest were visual effects. But I mean, think about that, right? I mean,
it costs more. It costs more to market their TV shows than it costs them to make Attack of the Clones, probably.
Yeah, he goes. In England, it would have cost another 15 to 20 million pounds, and there wasn't a rebate system at the time that there was in Australia. Of course, the Australian crew was 25% cheaper, and we were going to shoot there during the winter when the weather was very mild, so it was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, that's a big deal, man. Like, that saving money thing, when you were like, Gary Kurtz, he forgot about inflation.
Yeah. This guy's like, no, I'm not going to mess that up. Okay. I'm going to.
McCallum's like, I like doing the stat math in my miniatures games. I don't like it automated. I do all my own stat math.
I'm just saying, it sounds a lot like Rick McCallum might have caused 9/11 so he could get that discount in Australia. I'm just throwing that out there. You guys can look into it. Just throwing it out there. Because he was not going to become a Gary Kurtz. Never.
No Kurtz for you.
No Kurtz for you.
Yeah. So this is some other Camino concept art, right? Where I was just like, these motherfuckers were straight up gray aliens, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even remotely.
I like the one in the bottom right is my favorite one. I remember that one from the art of Attack of the. I almost said the fart of Attack of the Clones. The art of Attack of the Clones. Yeah. That one's just so weird looking.
Physically painted on board.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
It's acrylic over a pencil sketch. So, I just feel like when you're designing on board, you lend yourself to more big shape, like stronger shape design.
Right.
I don't know what it is. Like I do a lot of digital art, and I have a process where I'll like blob in stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to getting stronger shapes, I find that if I just sketch it beforehand, it's better to use that sketch, scan it in, and then build over. The sketches are always rougher, but the shapes, I don't know what it is about physically drawing on paper. You lend yourself to different shapes that just don't apply the same.
Yeah.
Digitally for whatever reason.
See you later, Darth Maximus. Everybody, Darth Maximus has to go, but don't worry. He'll finish
He's like,
it
you talked about the art? Fuck that. Like,
I hate art. What do you think I am?
Spoilers and complaining. No.
He's all, Grand Admiral Thrawn said you could look at somebody's art and know everything about them, how to destroy them. So I took an art history class and I didn't destroy anybody.
I just destroyed my bank account with high interest private loans.
Fuck you, Fannie Mae.
Yeah, these are the ones I think are the craziest.
Whoa, yeah,
these concepts. Cool. So like here they're able to control the water and the air very like, like Abyss.
Yeah.
And these would have like second like almost lizard-like bodies, and they have like they said second lizard-like eyelids. So like the eyelids would come over it. And you can see their bones are actually on the outside of their body.
Yeah, that's
like
trippy.
The rib cage. Yeah, like this is I've never seen anything like this. Like,
yeah, I want that thing turned into an Asajj Ventress kind of looking character with lightsabers. Look pretty freaky.
And this is Dermont, by the way.
Yeah.
This is Dermont Power. Yeah, that's Ian McKegg, that's Dermont Power. Yeah. That's Ian McKegg.
Dermont Austin Powers. Got it.
Yeah, and McKegger.
And the McKegger.
Like, I always look at the date, 10, 28, 99. How's an army?
Honestly, I mean, McKegger, I go, I buy beer, I drink a bunch, I wake up, I don't remember what happened, but there's 15 paintings done, and they're in the movie.
I got a bunch of lizards drawn, and they're manipulating water, and I put the bones on the outside,
and that's how I designed Darth Maul. If you want to know the truth.
So this is interesting. This piece of art I thought was cool. I don't think this shot, hold on, let me move it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. There we go. What is it? There we go. I don't think this exact shot's in the film. I don't remember it being, but it had look at this. This rotates around. It almost looks like that doesn't seem to, but that would be cool if it rotated around. But
yeah,
there's all these. These are where the kids are being trained, right? The little clone kids.
Is that thing on the left? Is it like a giant robot looking thingy?
This?
Yeah.
These fly around, so you can see here.
They're it's like okay,
troops around, or they're keeping eyes on them, or oh no, you know what they're doing? These are like test pilot slave ones. See, they look like see they got the little hover pods here.
Got it. Yeah.
So this is like a training facility, and they're practicing flying around in here versus maybe outside where they get killed by lightning. And as we know from the Roswell incidents, lightning is an alien's secret kryptonite.
It's like really funny how like I think you were the one who told me that for the first time. I didn't know why it was supposedly why it was supposed to have crashed, but like every day you see lightning photos with UFOs in them, which are probably just imaging artifacts from light and stuff when you get down to it. But
or the aliens like, we figured that out.
Yeah, we just want you guys to know we don't suck anymore. We used to suck back then, but we don't suck now.
You got us with the lightning the first time, human. So this is talking about the script.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Coleman, who was one of the visual effects supervisor, he you really see him in the Yoda model scene.
He's the Yoda guy, yeah.
Yeah, Yoda guy. And he goes, the script was given to us on a Friday, and we started shooting Monday morning, so we had 3 days to prep. The script, dated June 24, 2000, was titled Jar Jar's Great Adventure.
Yeah.
Ahmed Best chimes in, and he says, it was George's joke because he knew the title was going to leak to the press. That was George's middle finger to the whole everybody hates Jar Jar thing. No, he didn't. I don't hold grudges. I don't really read any of the reviews, and I don't talk about any, Jar Jar's Great Adventure. Fuck you.
Fuck all of you.
Here's the double T-bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was crazy back then. Like they give the script to Pepsi and stuff. I mean, that's how stuff leaked. It's really strange when you think about how early in the internet's history it was, where they're like, oh, that'll be fine. It'll work out.
Tarantino's like, you gave the script to Pepsi?
Yeah, pretty much.
What were you thinking? And Mike Blanchard says, this is great. He goes, George and Rick made a wonderful decision early on before the shoot that there was no film cameras as backup. So everybody had to be committed to shooting in digital. Yeah. I thought that was a really psychologically important thing to do. There's no other option. Yeah. That's a company man, Jason. That's a guy who's like, it was brilliant. It's psychologically, like, we have no way to back up.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like you got to make this work. You can't fall back on what you used to know. I mean, and that's the thing about those films is they actually did give a lot to cinema. For as much as people will crap on them and don't like them or they don't work for them, we really don't get a lot of what you love today without these movies speeding up that process. I think that process would have happened without Star Wars. I think Star Wars sped it up a lot, though. What
I love about this piece, man, is it's marker on vellum. So this is all marker work.
Okay. Yeah.
This would be an actual model.
The Slave One looking test ship thingy.
Yeah.
I think they might have turned those in that design into like an octopus kind of thing that attacks Kamino in the Clone Wars. I could be wrong. I'd have to look at it, but that's what it reminds me of.
You know what's a shame about it, man, is this would have been toys.
Yeah.
Like I look at this stuff and I'm like, if George was really committed to only selling toys, he would have made more toyetic designs for ships and stuff. Like the prequels have their moments, but they're not the same as like the X-Wing, the B-Wing, the A-Wing, the Sith, the TIE Interceptor. It's a cooler looking TIE fighter. It's really for the toy.
Yeah.
It's more of a toy thing. Like these would have, clone training, Boba training thing, like that. I probably would have picked one of these up.
The Attack of the Clones release of figures is when I pretty much officially stopped collecting. That's when I was just like, I bought like the first waves of it, and I was just like, you know what, this doesn't do anything for me. But I will say, I did enjoy the Mastiff, those dogs that the Tuscans had, and I bought that in 2002. Somehow my son has it. Loves that toy, and when they showed up in Bad Batch a few weeks ago, he was like, I have that, I love those things. So I was like,
well, we had waited, I was outside waiting for that movie to come out, right? And I was in college, so there was a Target nearby, so we walked in there and they had that Dooku saber that looks kind of like a phallic, it's got a little bit of a it's got some curve. And I was like, all right, I'll get into this. And then I walked out of the movie and I just threw it right in the trash.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, I'm done. I'm out of this.
Over this.
I'm looking forward to what William.
Yeah. For Revenge of the Sith, I was like, I'm not going to buy anything. And then like the midnight thing happened and I was out anyways. And I drove by Walmart past it. I saw it. I was like, you know what? I went in there and I got the burned up Darth Vader. Where like this armor came off and it was like Anakin. I was like, that's kind of what I always wanted from this. So I picked that up.
I get it.
Yeah. I think, and then after that, I just collected vintage for a while.
Speaking of vintage, nice segue. So this is my digital copy of Rinsler's book.
Yeah.
From the Jedi, right? Because I was like, they're 12. It's 12 versus 50. Why not? Right. So I'm looking at this on my phone. These are little screen snaps from my phone. And this is a piece of key art for the rocket bikes, right?
Yeah.
The speeder bikes, basically, from 1981. And I'm like, these look straight up like the swoops from Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And I'm like, if anything, it shows how they had to dumb the design down to make it a toy, and how cool that one looks.
I feel like your ass is hanging off the end of this thing. This is literally the most dangerous.
Yeah,
this is probably more dangerous than pods because at least you got it's covering you on both sides, right? Like your ass is hanging off. I mean,
yeah. The thing that I like about a lot of the weirder and earlier designs in Star Wars, though, it's like, like when Luke Skywalker takes his lightsaber and cuts off the front of the speeder bike and it like spins out.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the kind of stuff you think of, I feel like, as a kid. Like, what if I did that and what would it do? And like that kind of stuff. And when you get into a lot of the new designs, like they go like, that's a cool design, but I feel like sometimes they need more gags in mind of things that the Jedi can do to it. Things that so you know what I mean? For instance, compare like the speeder bike design to Rey's popsicle speeder. I love it. It looks cool for what it is and for what Rey needed to do. It did what it needed to like do, but you can't really probably can't write a really good gag for that design if you were to reuse it somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Well, my theory on that is that they shouldn't have given her a popsicle speeder. They should have given her a glider, since she's essentially Nausicaa anyway.
Yeah.
Studio Ghibli's Nausicaa, and in that manga, and then the animated movie, which is the animated movie, by the way, if you know what Nausicaa is really the first quarter of the first book, and there's 4 books. It took Hayao Miyazaki to write and draw that. It took him 15 years.
Yeah.
To finish that manga, and it's like My Lord of the Rings. But if she had like a glider that she could fly around on, she would, that They Fly Now would have been her. Yeah, I fly, bitch. You know what I mean? She comes in and like jumps up and it follows her around while she's fighting, and then she grabs onto it, and you know what I mean? Like, well, it would have give her.
It would have made more sense when she climbed up to the top of a Star Destroyer to take the parts out and glides down. You know what I mean? As opposed to climbing all the way back down and then taking a sled down. But
I know. So whatever. This is a quote that I pulled out from Lucas concerning, what is this? We're beyond the point of the film. So this is developing the deal with Fox. Yeah. Somebody just read it. So we're going beyond the point of film now. Anybody who's worked with film, especially anybody who has edited film, realizes what a stupid 19th century idea film is. This is Lucas wanting to do digital movies. Right, in the 80s. All right. So they were renovating. He hired. So I know what this is. This is when they were building the Skywalker Ranch up, and they were transferring from Los Angeles up to San Francisco, and they brought on Ed Catmull right here, Pixar, and they're digitizing everything. So they want to building their digital editing suites, digital audio. And this is Lucas griping about how dumb film is.
Yeah.
Right? So he goes, anybody who's torn sprocket holes or tried to show a first rough cut knows the only thing you worry about is if the film's going to break. It's just not what you call a sophisticated setup. You get into video and electronic technology, and you realize how sophisticated it is and how far in advance of anything in film. It's just a whole different world. Then you combine that with digital technology, and it's light years ahead of even video.
Yeah.
Cassette. You know, yeah, it's the pronunciation that I like. And then this is a letter from Smith to Kanzanian, who worked at Lucasfilm Southern. The change of management. So this is when Alan Ladd left Fox, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, potentially, Alan Ladd Jr., who gave Lucas that wonderful deal Fox appreciates.
Yeah.
Well, while potentially boosting Fox's merchandising profits on Star Wars, Lucasfilm also proposed to avoid further frustrations and confrontations with respect to licensing, that all ancillary rights become the sole property of Lucasfilm. Fox's only involvement with the Star Wars properties would then be its theatrical distribution rights under the original Star Wars agreement, as well as its existing television and related video rights for the first 2 films. So this is basically Lucas had to renegotiate with Fox, or they wanted to renegotiate, and Fox was like, what's the point of us promoting Empire Strikes Back if we don't have a financial stake in it? Like, if you own it and you get all the profits, what is our financial like incentive to promote your movie?
Right.
You know, and there was like basically it was like a 3-year project, I think it was, to like negotiate that deal with Fox again post Alan Ladd leaving. Like, it was really weird.
Yeah.
They had the same problem with Indiana Jones when he formed that little group. It was its own group with Spielberg. And Lucas put out a deal to all the studios, and Warner Brothers was going to buy it, but they're like, this is ridiculous and it's insulting, and how dare an artist own the film and we only just distribute it. You know, like that was
Yeah.
basically it. Creators' rights and Paramount and Eisner was like, we'll take the deal. Fuck it. You know. So.
Yeah,
This
there
was-
there was a story that relates to the digital stuff with George Lucas back then. I guess the guys who were doing the CGI work for The Last Starfighter when they very first started, like in the late 70s, had done X-Wing CGI tests.
This is on the making of the Last Starfighter DVD. Probably
Yeah.
Blu-ray as well. Yeah, and they showed the test. They did it on a.
I have it on the channel. I ripped it. I have it on the channel.
Yeah, that big
On the
weird
channel.
machine they called it. Yeah, whatever that the cast, the CAD, whatever that thing was. There's a big tower. They called
Yeah.
it, and they did that. This X-wing, you see it like turn and rotate in ways that you couldn't. But it was very what's the word? CGI-ish, game-ish. I don't know the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's I think the story
Cray machines.
Cray, yeah.
Cray.
It may be in the Rensler Return of the Jedi book. I could be wrong. But the story is that when they saw that it was sent to ILM and they never heard anything back. But meanwhile, in ILM, they saw it and it turned everybody sort of into a very gloomy moment where they realized that they were all about to be out of jobs.
Right.
Not as quick as they thought, or not as quick as it looked like, but that's when it was clear, oh, we need to get on this CGI shit now.
Yeah. Evolve or die, bitch.
Yeah,
You know,
and
like
then,
seriously. Yeah.
yeah, and then what? Like, a good 8 years later, you have The Abyss. So
Yeah, I mean, literally, you have the ability to do a three-dimensional character moving in two-dimensional space, right?
yeah.
Photorealistically. You know?
Oh, also the opening to Labyrinth, I think there was a CGI owl in that, and also in not the young Sherlock Holmes had that crazy night, the stained glass.
Yeah, but that
night,
wasn't
dude.
photo.
Yeah,
it's very Harryhausen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would be the
Yeah.
phrase. Yeah. But the Abyss one was the one where everyone was like, "Whoa,
yeah,
you know, that is amazing," and it's water. So.
It's wet.
It's wet, like me, like.
And then Cameron's
like Neeson's pants.
And then James Cameron's like, this beautiful water alien. Let's make it a cop.
Lucas was like, hey, I gotta wonder when that came out. Lucas was like, well, at least he's paying us to make it. Digital Domain was doing this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actual Lucas's 3 acts for Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Jedi, his handwritten first pass.
Right? Fun side note. On one of these books that came out, they digitally altered all of George Lucas's spelling mistakes.
Seriously?
From the originals, yeah. I remember having the pages in other books, and then when the book came out, you could compare them, and they had digitally altered them. Yeah,
well, let's go see what this looks like.
They probably also erased Heidi Fleiss's phone number as well.
I like this. Vader meets Moff Jarad. No capitalization. It's great. Vader and Jar Jarad establish Moon party. Moon party.
Ooh, it's a moon party. Get Ian McKager out.
You haven't seen Oral Nuts, have you?
Mm-mm.
Okay, buddy. I'm gonna send you links. I very rarely, you know me, I don't like when people recommend things. You're gonna. No. I think this is.
Well, you know what? You know what? You mentioned it, and then somebody else was like, I can't believe you haven't seen that. And then I went on the channel. I didn't get to watch it, but I had seen things that they had done.
So you got to actually watch their cuts all the way through, right, to really appreciate the thing, because there's a storyline going through all the cuts. But the one-off to get you into their sense of humor would be Existential Troopers, because that's like a 20-minute watch, you know. That's by itself. That's quite good.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a whole moon party thing. Like, yeah, like this Death Star is just a giant Chuck E. Cheese,
Yeah.
like raver thing. Like it's like an amusement park, and the Jedi are fucking like coked out, drug induced assholes.
George Lucas was like, they stole all my ideas.
That was in my initial draft that I used poor capitalization for. Capitalists don't like to capitalize. It's true.
I want people to think I'm too much of a capitalist. So
I just like how he has to cram it all on one line. Like he can't like write down the page or rotate it, like he has to go later. Leia upset, must see Luke alone. 3PO upset, like something like that. Vader alone. I don't know. So this is the sequence method, though.
That was where they got the idea for Home Alone.
Yeah, that's it.
Home Alone idea. Sorry.
Moffat Emperor talks. Vader confronts Luke. Yoda talk. Look how these are all like talking. These are rarely like big adventure things, right? These are really kind of character based, which I think is different now, right? If you go to the prequels and it's like, and there's pods and there's Anakin and he leaves and then the Gungans fight. Like it's
all those little kids from Close Encounters grew up and they're big now and they're making Boba Fett's.
Closer Encounters is the name, right? We have closer encounters because we know each other. Like, but 15 sequences, 15 beats per each act. 45 beats total. And you could see even here, he goes, this will be approximately 30 pages, which is the first act is 30. I like how each act is equal 30, 30, 30. So in a screenplay, the idea is that each page is 1 minute.
Yeah.
So you can see this is a 90-minute film in his mind, which I think comes out to be closer to 2 hours Jedi, right? Like it's 45, so maybe 15 minutes longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Leia found by trackers. It's just, I think with this stuff, man, like one, I find that he writes in pencil and yet there's no erasing. Like, I don't see a lot of erasing going on here. Robot prison. Like robot prison.
When you hear robot prison, it sounds cool, but then you're like, oh, it's the EV9D9 sequence. It's the 8D8 sequence.
Where he literally like BDSM's droids, man. Like, you'll find that we're going to treat you very comfortably.
He's like, I really have some stuff I want to get out, but I'm gonna put her in the bikini, but I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna go there with robots instead because that's my jam.
It was the hot footing gonk droids that got me when I was a kid. No.
It always pissed me off that it doesn't actually touch it and it smokes.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't actually. Why didn't they touch? I don't understand. Like, that's so weird. Luke and Pit, Jabba upset. So, like, this puts the Luke versus Jabba thing at 30 to 60 minute mark. That's in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah, and all the stuff that happens with Luke and Vader and Yoda happens here. I think this is when they were saying that his initial drafts really clarified Luke's plan before he goes to Tatooine, in that the plan was to send everyone there and to basically get everyone into a different position within the palace. And then the reason why Luke goes last is he's going to get Jabba to draw them. Once he has Luke, then he can kill them all in the Sarlacc and it will draw him out of the pit. And once he's out of the palace, once he's out of the palace, then it will be way easier to kill him versus inside his own territory,
Right.
And that goes away.
Yeah, that completely goes away. AJ says that you do a perfect Lucas impersonation.
Chandler, I don't think it sounds anything like me.
Chandler said it was cool how a single piece of art can influence so much. That was from earlier, and all hands on deck, like the right said Fred and Stars thinks it could work. Thinks it believes in
it. Saga for your wars. Saga for yeah.
But there was a question that we had. Oh yeah, my old buddy Francisco said, do you guys think Star Trek is in a worse state than Star Wars?
Yes.
Alex Kurtzman renewed his contract at CBS, and Thrawn responds that Trek had to go multiverse to keep that show going. And for what it's worth, I don't know. I haven't seen Picard or any of that stuff. I'm not like a big Trek guy, and so I honestly don't know. But what I do find interesting is when you see tweets about Star Trek being political and stuff that I feel like Star Trek is going through Star Wars in 2017. Just what I see in the periphery, when I'm on the internet, and it makes me laugh because boy, you put a spaceship and some people just don't see the subtext, and I'm like, dude, it's like in my opinion, I thought Star Trek, the original show, was boring as shit as a kid. And it wasn't until I was an adult and could see the political context of it and the parable, the socio-political, context of it. And you're like, oh, this is just like the Twilight Zone. This is dealing with things on television that you can't talk about on, a cop show or something. And so it's like, oh, and it's well done, and it's smart. And then so it's like, I hear that, I see that stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, Star Wars did not have a chance, because it's even more buried. It's even more under the surface than that one. But
I mean, if you don't want to dig through the OG Star Trek, there's a cool podcast called Enterprise Incidents that's Steve Morris and Scott Mantz do, right? Yeah. That goes through each episode of the original trilogy in production order. And even if you're not like a big OG Star Trek fan, but you want to have some kind of conversation, you want to hear maybe an educated opinion on it, like that's actually really good, like because they get into actual production dates, who edited what, where the score came from, what the intention, what all the like production side of it too, really comes out in that. It's a great podcast. But I would say in our lifetime, like in our childhoods, even if people didn't think the Next Generation was political, which that's funny, go watch Deep Space Nine and then come back to me and tell me that ain't nothing but the Kosovo, the Kosovo conflict that we were having at the time.
Right.
Like that is literally the Israel Palestinians situation and Kosovo situation, wrapped up with an evangelical bent, wrapped up in just dirty war politics. I mean, there's nothing not political about Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah. I don't remember that one. Like I was, as a kid, I watched the original show. Was like my dad watched it, so it was on, and then I watched the animated show, which they were showing on like PBS or something weird, some like local,
the Star Trek animated one.
Yeah, I liked it because it was animated, and as a kid, I watched Scooby-Doo with Batman on it, and I was like, it has Batman on it. That's great.
The Harlem Globetrotters are my favorite episode.
Yeah.
Because they defeat people with basketballs. Like, I always wanted to do that. I couldn't spin the ball on my finger,
Same thing with Thrawn defeating people with art. It's just like
he just literally takes people and throws the art at them,
Yeah. I mean,
it's the Yui Bowls Thrawn.
It's like it's funny because that is like, it's in one hand it's smart and it's a good idea and it's a way to bring up like an aspect of a culture in Star Wars that you have no other way of getting at. In the bigger picture, it's such a by itself a silly idea that like, that's my secret weapon. I study their art, so then I know everything about them.
Well, it's Sherlock Holmes. It's the power of observation. I mean, and to be fair, people forget, like Sherlock Holmes it started in a woman's magazine, The Strand, as pulp stories.
Strandcast?
Right. Believe me, when you said the Strand Cast, I was like, do I take this down? Arthur Conan Doyle's.
Santa says Electric Company with Spider-Man was always super exciting for me. I remember that. He'd just be like climbing on the side of the building.
You guys! Yeah. That's what people think that's Goonies. I'm like, no.
That was I loved that show as a kid. That was like better than Sesame Street to me, strangely.
Although I had a crush on the girl from Romper Room when I was a kid, so Romper Room was
my drummer was on Romper Room.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I didn't believe them.
I kept hoping they would read my birthday off, and I didn't realize you have to send them your fucking birthday. I thought they would just know. Like, they'll get to my name eventually. I have to be
eventually. Yeah, eventually it's just gonna be me. Yeah. Well, we're about 154 right now. I think we'll call this one a show. It was
pretty good. We did all right. We did okay.
Yeah, we had some good Star Wars discussion. We had a good Star Wars hangout, as we always do. And
a lot of time on Camino today.
I didn't see that one coming, and it was delightful. On a hot day like this, I don't mind talking about a rainy planet with super trippy space aliens. But
little known fact, it's actually hot on Camino. So even though you got all that water, you're like, fuck, it's muggy.
It's
like, it's the wet heat.
Yeah, no, there was a line that was cut when Kenobi is going to fight Jango. He kind of like fans out his robes and goes, swamp ass. You know, and then Boba's like, get him, Dad, oi, you know, and all that stuff. But they were like, you know what, George, we should cut that because we don't really have like the atmospheric effects for the swamp ass. I get it.
Oh, Liam Neeson's like, I could have done that. They killed me off too early. You know?
Yeah. Hey, Thrawn, if you're free on Saturday, come and join us for the UFO talk, and we will get to that. I was sick last week, ruined the whole weekend, but this week we'll do that. And All Hands on Deck says peace. Thanks for coming again, All Hands on Deck. I always appreciate when you guys show up and hang out with us. Tomorrow we will be back again, I believe at 1:00 p.m. Thrawn Talk will be here to talk UFOs with us on Saturday, and it will be a good time. And Jason, I'm pretty sure, is free. We haven't talked, but I think it was the plan was to do it on Saturday. If he's not free, just me and Thrawn will do it, but hopefully Jason's there too. And yeah, so we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, Rob, for bringing pieces that you pulled from the concept art book, from the Star Wars Archives book, I believe. Is that what it's called?
The Star Photo Archives and Rinslers.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions that you guys want us to talk about or any topic ideas, send us a message. Either DM me on Twitter or send an email, Making Star Wars, or the Facebook, whatever you want, and then we will get to it. And you know, I just want to thank everybody too for sticking by us this whole time, agreeing that like Star Wars is more than just a movie. It's more than a story about laser swords and stormtroopers and spaceships. It's more than.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.